Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? So I've been meaning to do a unit showcase on this guy, but of course with a lot of content, delays happen, but finally came around to this one. I think it's a good video to end up taking on because even though it's pretty obvious this guy is pretty much meant as SA fodder for the Dokkan Fest transforming cooler unit, it's always interesting to ask the question whether this unit is worth it as a free-to-play as an option, and if it's worthwhile the potential levels or potential orbs. So let's just go ahead and cover the stats first, and then we'll go into how this unit performs on this particular team setup. So again, this is the free-to-play Extreme TEQ Cooler unit. You can farm it in the revamped story event, and it is a Conquest of Terror category lead, Ki +2 HP attack and defense, increase to 30%. Maybe he'll get some sort of Dokkan Awaken in the future, but at this time the leader skill is pretty irrelevant. Now in terms of the super attack, he does at least have the ability to raise defense. Again, that's beneficial in longer events like the legendary Goku event and stuff like that. So does have that along with causing supreme damage to enemy. Now the passive skill is an attack and defense increase of 40%. However, there is also the category support of Conquest of Terror category allies get Ki +2 attack and defense increase of 30%. So in that regard, this unit can be beneficial because of supporting role to the overall team, but also the ability to raise defense level as well from every super attack. And the link skills are pretty much straightforward of your typical cooler type unit. Strongest Client in Space is +2 Ki, Thirst for Conquest is 15% to attack, Cold Judgment is 20% to defense, Brutal Beatdown is attack increase to 10%, Metamorphosis is 5% HP recovery, and Nightmare is 10% to attack. So again, link set is pretty good. You shouldn't have a problem linking up with the rest of the units on the category types of teams. Decent amount of categories: Movie Bosses, Transformation Boost, Wicked, Bloodline, and of course Conquest of Terror. So you got 4 solid categories this unit falls into, and of course if you run it in a category with some Conquest of Terror category units, you're definitely going to see that improvement to the team overall. Now at 100% potential, the HP level is 9,747, attack is 10,766, and defense is 6,106. 12 Ki Multiplier is 130%. So remember, the ability to raise defense with every super attack does allow for an increase by 30% up to, you know, the restriction of 99 turns. It doesn't really matter in most cases because no battle is going to go that long, honestly. But yeah, I mean, from a free-to-play standpoint, if free-to-play is your option, I think it's at least worthwhile to get this unit to max SA and go ahead and unlock all the potential paths. Now, you don't necessarily have to get this guy to 100% potential, but you know, if you do decide to run this guy on a team as a supporting option, I think it'll be, you know, beneficial enough to have that alternative option available to you if needed. I mean, again, you know, the ability to raise defense is beneficial in my opinion, especially in today's age with all the changes and all the recent new events where it is a little bit dragged out, and bringing defense stacking units is actually optimal in this sense. So with that in mind, I think it's worthwhile, I think, to test, you know, possibly on like the legendary Goku event or Infinite Dragon Ball History event, just to see how beneficial it would be. You know, because you are looking at a defensive unit, but also a Ki boosting unit and attack and defense increasing unit. Like +2 Ki and attack and defense increase of 30% to, you know, Conquest of Terror category allies could definitely be beneficial. And the only drawback with this setup is you're going to have to run some other leader besides the new transforming cooler unit, because of course they share the same name. So you could, you know, you could make alternative makeshift teams by utilizing a different leader. Like in this sense, it's the what was it, Super Saiyan Broly from the Dragon Ball Super movie event, because that guy is the movie boss's lead and also the full power lead. So, you know, you could include movie boss units on here that also fall into the enhanced transformation or Conquest of Terror type deal, and you could certainly see the value in that. I think overall it does make some levels of impact. Now, given how good this overall category is, regardless of what exactly we're talking about, I mean, even the free-to-play cooler unit falls into 4 very solid categories. So, you know, it's kind of like a compromise for that defensive and passive support. You have to pretty much give a slot away from one of the much better units, essentially, because you're pretty much forcing this guy in there to provide that support from the passive to the rest of the team. Or you're looking to benefit from the ability to raise defense with every super attack. So, you know, I keep stressing that the value-added opportunities for this unit is pretty much situations where you need that defensive support, because over the course of time, if you continue to stack that defense, this unit could actually be very, very good. And also, in addition to that, again, this unit does provide a key support and attack and defense increase support, so that could be beneficial to some of the units that don't necessarily stack defense, you're facing a tough battle situation where that extra 30% could make a difference. In some cases it can, so with that in mind, you know, that is certainly could be beneficial, and even early on the initial battle settings, like early rotations, of course the transforming cooler unit also provides a pretty big boost to either the Conquest of Terra or enhanced transformation category units on the team based on how many enemies are on the field. So, you know, you have a fair amount of crazy amount of units that could provide support. Like Golden Frieza obviously falls into this category. You've got the intelligence type Meta Cooler that also did get an EZA, provides a very good supporting role with this type of team setup. So in that regard, there is a lot of supporting units. So if you look at it in that sense, the free-to-play cooler might not be your best shot to include on a team. However, again, I do want to stress the fact that the other units don't have the ability to raise defense with the super attack. So that's really the key distinction of the difference between this guy and the rest of the supporting type units. The other support type units could potentially be a liability in the tougher battles, because believe it or not, well, maybe in some cases it's different than it was before, but you know, I remember a time when the Kid Buu unit, the physical type with the EZA, great support unit. However, the unit became a defensive liability at times, especially when the unit's facing a type disadvantage setting and the boss is actually pretty tough. Like, so in those cases, like, I don't know, like it's worth testing to see how that is, but I think the main goal of this particular showcase is just see how this unit does. And the fact that this guy is on the first slot of the rotation really isn't how you're going to be utilizing this unit. This is pretty much done in tailored to this specific showcase, because we are putting this unit in the limelight. But in a realistic setting, you're probably going to use this guy as a floater and provide that key and attack and defense boost for a variety of different units on, you know, the first and second rotations, or alternating rotations, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty much, I think, what the sole function of this unit would probably be. But here again, there's going to be a compromise with that, because if you utilize him as a floater, he's not going to be able to stack the defense as quickly, or, you know, as continuously, because the third slot or floater position in the rotation, you're going to see the unit far less than any of the units in the first 2 slots of every rotation. Basically, you're offsetting, so you're essentially losing out on potentially a lot of turns based on a floater setup. So, you know, it's a give or take. I think ultimately it comes down to whatever battle situation you're finding yourself into in terms of how to utilize this unit. But, you know, if it's purely from a support standpoint, where it doesn't really matter, you know, what the, I don't know, defensive stack levels are or whatever, it doesn't really apply, then yeah, I certainly use them as a floater. You know, if you're going through some of the tougher, longer battles, it might be worthwhile to stack that defense a little bit more often than not. So that's probably, you know, the biggest way to look at this unit. personally, I think as a free-to-play option, this guy does have very good skill sets. It's highly beneficial, especially on the categories this unit falls into. So yeah, of course you can't run this unit together with the Transforming Cooler lead because of the name duplication, but you know, again, you can make makeshift teams out of different leader skills that, you know, all the units on the team fall into whatever category leaders apply. So that's pretty much my take on it. So hopefully you found this helpful. We'll go ahead and close it off here, but hopefully you found it helpful, and I do appreciate you watching as always. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. All right, peace out.